Hi guys, welcome back to Just Talking, where I talk at you sometimes listen. So today we're going to do a bit of a history video, a review, and also a merchandise overview of the ride Infusion at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, which is located along the northwest coast of England. And I do really enjoy these history videos, and if you do enjoy them too, make sure to like, comment and subscribe, and let's get into the history of Infusion. So its original location actually wasn't in the Pleasure Beach, it was in Pleasureland Southport, which is a sister park of Blackpool Pleasure Beach, and it operated there from 1999 to 2006. So it's originally called Traumatizer, and it can actually be seen right here. Of course, Pleasureland Southport did close in 2006, which is why Blackpool Pleasure Beach relocated it to its park. So the coaster is a steel suspended looping coaster, often abbreviated to SLC, and it was manufactured by Vekoma in the years following up to 1999. And of course, Vekoma is a Dutch company, and the ride did cost $8 million to construct at the Pleasure Beach. The price is unknown for how much it cost to make for Pleasureland Southport, but I'm assuming it would be around £12 million. So it originally had a red and blue theme, but now it just has a blue one, and it's surrounded by dancing fountains and has a short waterfall element as well. And it's the first ever coaster, I'm not too sure if that's in the world or if it's just of its make, to be suspended entirely over water. So the station of course isn't in water, but all of the track pieces are above some form of water apart from the station ones, because of course that isn't exactly possible. So it does have a track height of 109 feet. That's not necessarily where you are seated, because of course it is a suspended coaster, which means you are located beneath the track, and it can hold up to 832 riders per hour, and that has 16 riders per train. Of course, Infusion did replace the log flume, which was primarily on the lot, and to accompany Infusion, they dyed the water fully blue, and then they put the ride on top of that place. A lot of people do argue that they would rather have the log flume there than Infusion, because it's very rare to find actual log flumes at any UK park, and hardly any foreign parks now as well. Of course, there are some more in Europe, but it tends to be a lot rarer now in the UK that you'll actually find a log flume. Of course, the only other one at the park is the old mill ride, which is River Caves, and the actual log flume, Rugrats Lost River ride in Nickelodeon Land. So for the ride layout, it has a few inversions and, of course, a 109-foot lift hill. And of course, the ride does start by rolling out the station and ascending the lift hill, and then it descends into a curved incline, which can be seen right here. Of course, the ride then scales the Cobra Roll, which is pictured here, before then going into an overbank turn, sometimes considered an apex turn. And then after that turn, it goes into a sidewinder, which is an inversion that starts as a loop, and then it transitions into a barrel roll. Of course, this element has a metal waterfall which goes up with the start of the loop, but of course it doesn't follow into the barrel roll, and that's a really impressive effect. Of course, then it goes into the double inline twist, which turns at a fixed point. So basically, an inline twist it's not a barrel roll or a 0G roll or any other sort of roll. It's straightforward, this turn, and it focuses on a fixed point in the rider's body to make it just seem like they're turning and the ride isn't. And they mainly focus on the heart, because that's a good centre to start with. So of course that does give you quite a good thrill, and it's a double one as well, and normally they only come in a single one mainly, and then go into a barrel roll, but I think this is quite a nice unique element. And then it turns into the block brakes, either to be held depending on how many trains are operating, or go straight into the station. Of course, sometimes these block brakes can actually be kind of tough and strict, and they'll randomly jolt you to a halt, but normally they're okay. So for the merchandise that's available for Infusion, of course you can buy these at a variety of stores, such as the Noah's Ark shop, which does actually offer delivery, so you can pick your merchandise up at the end of the day, so long as you put your order in before 4 PM. Of course, that is if you're within the park. It doesn't happen when you're doing things online, because of course the Noah's Ark shop is on the grounds of the park, where you have to have an e-ticket to enter. And of course you can get it from a variety of other shops around the park, apart from the Icon shop and I believe the Wallace and Gromit shop as well. So First of all, you have the Infusion model, which I don't actually have an image of. I'm not too sure what it's made out of. It might be epoxy resin or something, but I'm not too sure. And that's £100. I have a few of these models, and basically it's one of the train cars on the suspended track. There is one for Icon, and I believe there is now one for the big one. So if you want to pick one of these up, they are actually really nice, and they're a great display item for a collector. There is also the Infusion cap at £11.95, and that's seen here. It's a nice teal blue with the Infusion logo and the catchphrase, immerse your senses. So then, of course, you do have the Infusion keyring, which features the block logo with Infusion, and also the Pleasure Beach logo too, and that is £3.95. You then have the Infusion magnet, which follows the same logo, but I'm not too sure if they've removed the sign underneath, which had the catchphrase on it. But the magnet just looks like the similar logo seen here, and that is £4.95. You then also have the Infusion medallion, which features a sort of embossed part of the track, the word Infusion, and then also Blackpool Pleasure Beach. That is similarly £4.95. You then have the Infusion mug, which is here. That starts off as quite a smaller base, and then it kind of cones out, and it's got a nice design to it with the sort of fade of dark blue to light blue and white, and then also the white track on it as well. I think this is quite a nice mug, especially given that it's £7.95, and in real life it's actually a pretty decent size. You could have a nice cup of coffee in it. And of course all the mugs in the Pleasure Beach are appropriate for really any sort of beverage unless they explicitly say otherwise, so you can put a hot drink or a cold drink in any of these. And then you do also have the Infusion pin badge, which similarly holds this Infusion logo, and that's £3.95 too, so that's for any of you pin collectors out there. Of course, there isn't the biggest selection for Infusion merchandise. It's not the most popular ride at the park either, but I would say that it is still good quality. The merchandise for the Pleasure Beach is always great, but this is probably one of the lower end of the hoodie quality spectrum, because most of them now have a sort of fleecing on the inside and they look a little bit nicer, but this is a fabric inside on the hood, and also mainly on the inside, and you don't get as much as a nice fleecing as the Icon merch does and some of the other hoodies available, especially in the Blackpool Pleasure Beach branded range. But they are still really nice pieces, and I do quite like the way that they've chosen a nice lighter blue. But I would, for the cap, maybe say I'd want a darker blue for that, but they are still really nice, and if you do want a piece of it because you do like the ride or you're just interested in the way it looks, then I'd definitely pick something up. Of course, for the review side of things, the coaster does have an actually exciting layout. Like, on paper, it's a really great ride. With a lot of different inversions. Not all of them you'll see every day. Like, if you go to places like Flamingo Land, you won't exactly see that on their suspended coaster. And, it's got a really nice layout. And it'd make for a good ride whether or not it was manufactured by Vekoma or if it was a B&M coaster. But however, the restraints are uncomfortable and they do feel a little bit loose in a sense. So normally you'll have an over-shoulder restraint, such as, let's use Icon, that's snug and you can feel it pressing against you and you feel sat in, and you get airtime, but without thinking, oh, that's just my body feeling the restraint. You're actually going out of your seat, but you're still attached to the restraint and the restraint isn't moving. But with this, when you go through an inversion, you feel like you're pushing up against the restraint, and it can sometimes rattle you a bit. It is quite old now. I've only just realised it's 21, so it's quite an old. It's actually 22 this year. So it's actually a relatively old ride. So of course it's going to have a bit of roughness, but they do really need to change up the restraints because you can bang your head and your shoulders, and it can be quite painful. Especially during those inversions. The wait times are actually usually manageable, of course, with it gaining this infamous reputation. A lot of people will just avoid going on the ride altogether, and of course it's worth a ride just to experience it, just to know what it's like, because not every park has a suspended coaster. You'll find a lot of them in America, but in Europe they're a lot less common than your regular steel coasters and your launch coasters and things like that. So I would definitely recommend just having a ride on it just for the experience. Of course, if you have issues with your back, your shoulders or neck pains, I would definitely avoid going on it because it will definitely hurt you. There is more restrictions on this ride to do with your physical state because of how rough it can be. But, it is quite nice when you're waiting in the queue line if it does get a little bit busier, because I think there is a maximum of 2 trains that are allowed on in operation at one point. But the water features of the ride are really nice to look at. You have, of course, the dancing fountains in the middle, and also watching the train traverse through the attraction, like in that snaking manner, and it is quite entertaining to watch it. Although the ride, for some people, is best enjoyed from the intersecting rides of the Pleasure Beach Express, which is seen here, or the Big Dipper, because of course the Big Dipper can get a little bit rough, but it's nowhere near as rough at times as Infusion, because you can get pretty rattled up. But what I think the park should really do is retrack it. Of course, they could, if they really wanted to, convert it to a B&M coaster. They definitely could do that. They probably have the money for it as well. In recent years, there's been a lot of investment in the park, and the park's thriving at the minute. So I do think that they could definitely invest in retracking or reworking the ride, even if they just expand the layout by a little bit. It is obviously in a very small footprint. It's not in the biggest space. So I think if they maybe widened it out and maybe put it closer to Big Dipper, they could definitely do that, and then it maybe make it a little bit smoother. But yeah, that's really it for this video. I really do hope this taught you some new things about Infusion. It decided on which merchandise you were going to buy, and if you were going to go on the ride, I would definitely say go on it. It's worth a ride just to experience. It is, after all, another coaster credit for you enthusiasts, and it is just something that you can say, oh, I've been on Infusion, it was painful, or it was okay. But I really do hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something new, and I hope it's given you a wider scope of knowledge. And of course, I do have a full playlist of all my history of videos, so if you do want to find out the history of more rides, then you can definitely check that out. And yeah, this was Just Talking. Bye bye.